Hello and welcome to Teenagers Untangled, the audio hug for parents going through the teenage years. I'm Rachel Richards, parenting coach, mother of 2 teenagers and 2 bonus daughters.
Hi there, I'm Susie Asley, mindfulness coach, mindful therapist, musician and mother of 3 teenagers. 2 of them are twins.
Now, Susie, I know you weren't keen to talk about grooming because it's really an unpleasant subject.
Yeah.
I don't really want to talk about it either. No. Should we just talk about it?
Should we just not? Okay. That's fine with me.
That's sort of just look it up, guys. Just look it up yourself. Okay. One of our listeners, Frances, is a therapist who's been tackling these issues with clients. She says parents really need to be more aware and to make their kids more aware of the patterns involved so they can protect themselves.
Yeah, no, it's super important. I'm up for attempting.
Yes, let's try it. And in this episode, we'll talk about what grooming is, how it can happen to your kid, what to look out for and to say to them, and how to support them if they're victims. I'm not going to look at in real life grooming because this happens for sure. I'm going to look mainly at online grooming, and there are reasons for that. Anyway, let's talk happy stuff like nuggets. Have you got a nugget for us this week?
I have. It's a bit of a vague one, but it's this idea that, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but sometimes when things are going really well and everything's in balance, you think, oh, great, cracked it. And then stuff comes up again.
Yes.
And then life. And it's just a really nice reminder. And I mean, the details of what those particular things were don't really matter. But, you know, definitely 2 out of 3 of my kids have been things this week. And I just go, oh, rats.
No, it's not plain sailing.
Do I have to do that again?
Yes.
Oh, God. And it's just a great reminder, you know, nothing lasts forever. Everything's passing and here we go again. And it's tweaking and it's a dance. I was reminded myself, it almost feels like a dance of, you know, it's a recurring dance of moving and tweaking and being flexible. So that was my little reminder to
and the
myself.
Buddhists talk about the wheel of life and the circle, and that, you know, when you're up at the top and everything's great, it's not going to stay there, and that's okay. That's just part of how it is. And I remember when the kids were really, really little, and you think, this is amazing. Yes. They're sorted. And then they go through another fussy stage because that's what development is. It's never linear. It just goes, right, now we've got to do something.
And a reminder to stay exactly in that mindset of everything passes, everything changes. And it's non-attachment, isn't it? That's the Buddhist thing of not clinging on to the good or the bad. Not clinging on to the good and pushing away the bad, but being with all of it, and it will, you know, it comes around again.
Yeah, absolutely. My nugget is about a word that I saw another podcaster using, and it was punishment. And she was talking about, she was asking people what they thought about taking away phones as a means of punishment. Mm-hmm. And I responded to her saying, I just don't like that word. I don't think that should really be in our vocabulary as parents, because punishment is so disconnecting. It's so... it's not actually getting you or your kids to where you want to be. And I'm much more, particularly, and we'll talk about this in this episode, particularly when you're trying to talk about online life, whether it's your phone, whether it's media, social media on a computer. When we seek to punish for behavior, what we're not doing is securing the boundaries and opening up that discussion with them. So I would much rather talk about learning and that they've done something, and so we don't want them to do that again. How do we get them to that position? Because punishment, people cower, wait for it to pass, and then they just go back to whatever they were doing.
It's behaviour control punishment.
Yes,
isn't it?
just behaviour control.
And sometimes it works depending on the punishment, but you lose the contact, you lose the connection, and then you can't have a conversation.
Yes, and the conversations are absolutely vital, which we'll talk about shortly. Let's talk about reviews. Now, I've been digging around because I didn't realise that with Spotify you can see when people have, you know, each episode there'll be a question, what did you think? And I've noticed a few, which is lovely.
That's amazing.
Thank you so much, guys. Yes.
Amazing. I've got a couple here. Yeah, from Kirsty. Thank you, Kirsty. Very helpful. First parenting podcast I have listened to and will definitely listen to more. Amazing.
Yay.
And one from Louise, who says, firstly, I love your podcast. One helpful tip I use for her at school, I presume your daughter, is to pin a piece of fabric with my perfume inside her jumper. So when she gets overwhelmed, It helps her calm and feel reassured. Oh, that's such a lovely
That's
thing
a great tip. And my daughter loves my perfume.
Yeah, my daughter does.
So she would find that very comforting. Yeah. Very good tip. I like that.
I used to give my kids when they were little, like my scarf with perfume on, and I only had one perfume deliberately so that there was my smell.
Yes.
Really good. Thank you, Louise.
Your scent.
Scent. Smell. Stink.
Horses smell. Right. Farm animals.
My granny used to say that. Horses smell.
Here's one from Carrie Ann, who listened to the trans and gender confusion interview. She said, "Thank you for a truly educational insight into something that I've been trying to understand better. I've learned so much in that short episode. It's a very complex subject. We just basically touched on it in regards to how we can talk to our teenagers. But it's a very, very deep, wide topic.
Yeah. And Stella has lots of stuff, doesn't she?
Yeah, lots and lots of stuff about it. And Helen Greenland listened to What is a Gap Year and Should Our Teens Take One? And she said, loved it.
Amazing.
See, it can just be as simple as that. We don't need lots and lots of words. We just need a little bit of a thumbs up, and it makes us very happy. So thank you. Right, back to grooming.
Oh, really?
Sorry. Have you had to tackle this with any of your clients?
No, not specifically. I haven't, no.
Okay, I've been contacted by a number of parents whose kids have been victims. And one of the reasons for that is because I regularly post stuff on social media, and I just repost things I see without comment, so that it can give people ways to think about stuff and they can also then respond to it. So I have had a few parents contacted me, and some of them have involved the police. And for others, it was difficult to track the person down. So they just took the approach of learning from it and moving on. But it's very upsetting when it happens. And so it's much better if we can be forewarned about. And these kids, boys, girls, it's actually very often it is more girls who tend to be targeted, but boys are equally vulnerable. So grooming, what is it? It's when someone builds a relationship of trust or emotional connection with a child or young person so they can manipulate, exploit and abuse them. And we're talking about young people here, but it does actually happen just generally. The abuse is usually sexual or financial, but it can also include other illegal acts like county lines drug running, which is where people groom people to carry drugs down these rail lines to country villages from the schools, cities. Yeah. And it can be even more sinister. There's a local foundation very close to us, which was set up in 2014 after a local boy, Breck, was murdered by his online groomer. And over the course of a year, an 18-year-old man who was doing this, and he ran an internet gaming server, and Breck and his school friends were using it every day. And he basically zoned in on Breck, isolated him, used lies, manipulation and false promises to gain his trust. And his parents even tried, they just realized what was going on and tried to stop contact. But this groomer actually sent burner phones and, it was a really difficult situation. And eventually he was lured to the groomer's flat where he was killed. So it's very upsetting. I will put a link to that online because you can use that to educate your teens. Yeah. That's the parents have been brilliant about sharing their story to try and educate people.
It's tragic.
So what is the process? Basically, the groomer identifies a victim, gives them special allowances or privileges, or finds a way to share secrets so they feel special, or tells them how wonderful they are and makes them feel like they're different. They then isolate the child, take them offline. So if they're on a game, they'll take them off the game and start talking. They'll create secrecy, and then they'll start desensitizing them to the grooming behavior. So it doesn't always take all those steps, but that's the sort of framework. Yeah. And the types of grooming, the thing about online grooming is that they can hide, of course. They can send photos or videos of other people. They can target a child online, or like one or lots of them. Sometimes they just choose to send lots and lots of things, just phishing, to see if anybody will respond. And they use the same sites, games and apps as young people. They know where these people are. Yeah. And they will spend time trying to learn about the person's interests. So one of the people who was affected was a sports person, this teenager, and they realized that it was an important thing for this person and started complimenting them. And then the grooming started. Yeah. And that was sexual grooming.
It's power and control, isn't it?
It's power and
all
control.
about getting power, getting control over the person.
Yes. It's important to remember that the children and young people, often they don't understand they're being groomed.
No.
Because it's so sophisticated. They may have very complicated feelings like loyalty, admiration, love. I mean, if you have been loved bombed by someone and feel amazing, it's going to be very hard to then step back and say, actually, this is sinister and it's not a nice thing.
I don't want it anymore. I'm going to, because if I say anything, it'll stop. And you're emotionally immature. It feels really nice. That's really, really, really challenging.
And it's a really fast-moving area. So in the UK, the offence of sexual communication with a child was only introduced in 2017. I didn't know that.
God, that's not long
That's really recent, isn't it? And so that's just 6 years ago. And there was some research released in the Sydney Morning Herald just maybe a couple of weeks ago, maybe even a week ago, which published a shocking number of Australian men who are sexually attracted to children. So what they've done, did you read it?
Yeah,
Random survey, more than just under 2,000 men.
It was really grim.
Yeah. And these men were 18 to 65. Almost 1 in 6 men have sexual feelings towards children and teens, and almost 1 in 20 acknowledged having committed child sexual offences. What?
That is chilling.
Yeah.
And it'd be great to know a few more details about the surveys, because my mind goes, well, what does that actually mean? But the big statistics are horrible.
The big statistics, and to me, I'm looking at that thinking that probably a lot of that will have happened online.
Yeah.
And the ones they found that admitted these things were more likely to be married, earn higher incomes and work with children.
Really?
Which is very concerning, yes. So the NSPCC, which is the charity in the UK for protection of children, recently requested data on offences from all UK police forces since this kind of offence in the UK was introduced in 2017. The data shows that over 6,000 offences were recorded in 22-23, which is an 82% increase since the year the offence came into force.
Okay.
Under 12s are affected in a quarter of those cases. And where the gender was known...
Under 12s?
Under 12s.
Christ.
And this is the problem. And we'll come on to why that does happen. Where the gender was known, 83% of online grooming offences were against girls.
Okay.
So it is skewed towards girls, but boys are vulnerable. Yeah. Where does it happen? Well, where the means of communication was known, 150 different apps, games and websites were being used. 26% of online grooming offences against children took place on Snapchat. 47% of online grooming offences took place on Meta-owned products such as Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp. And this is why there have been cases being brought in the US and places where they're trying to put more controls in and trying to just protect kids more. But the more and more, Susie, that I look at these things, whether it's Snapchat, whether it's Instagram, whatever online phone use, we are the gatekeepers. That's it.
We are, and I don't think the companies are that interested in stopping it. They don't care because it makes them money and it's just grotesque.
Yes, and every time they have to put in place a control, that means that they could, because they're trying to collect information. So one of the laws is that they're not allowed to collect information on children under the age of 13, which is why some of these barriers are put up. It's nothing to do with child grooming. It's just to do with, data protection.
Yeah.
But how many kids actually lie about their age?
Oh, loads of them do. Most of them do.
Yes. So then they're not safe.
No.
So the truth is these numbers are probably the tip of the iceberg because a lot of kids don't admit to things happening.
No.
Or parents find out and they don't, if it's not something you can get any help with the police, what are you going to do?
And there's a lot of shame involved in it as well, isn't it? Embarrassment.
So the main area of target is 12 to 15-year-old girls. They're very vulnerable. And we saw this with sexting as well. Yeah. Sexting as well. These girls are very vulnerable. Teen boys are the next primary target for online predators. They say that boys are more comfortable talking about their sexuality online with strangers.
So the boys, is that the same age, as the girls?
It didn't say. It didn't say. One of the big problems, which we just mentioned, is that 31% of children aged 12 to 18 in these surveys lied about their age for website access. and 75% were even willing to share their personal information for goods and services. So it's an easy one, isn't it?
Yeah.
You put something up that a teenager wants and they go, oh, well, I'll give you my details for that.
And also when the kids have lied about their age to get into these different platforms, then the platform thinks, oh, now they're 18. And then they start getting new information and they're not 18.
Yes. And they're forming a profile constantly of your behaviour.
They're suddenly allowed access to a whole load of stuff that they shouldn't be looking at.
Yeah. And the Internet Watch Foundation reported that 2021 was the worst year for online sexual abuse. What was happening then? COVID. And it notably increased in the first months of the pandemic. Online predator reports increased by 106%.
Wow.
Early in the pandemic. And that's McAfee. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. Okay, so what do they want? They want, mostly they want explicit images of children. Other purposes, physical meetings. They just enjoy sexual conversations or role play online. And only 2%, it said, was financial motivation. I was contacted by a parent where their child had shared a photo or photos and they demanded money. The teenager gave money and then they said, no, we want more now. And we are going to,
so that they wouldn't show.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to send this to all your contacts because they find out once they know who all your contacts are, that's how they work. And that's happened to another person where they said, right, unless you show us more, give us more extreme pictures, I'm going to send these photos to everyone on your list.
Yeah. And if you're 14 years old, how on earth do you navigate that?
Yes. Well, luckily I know about this because the parents contacted me and they called the police.
Yeah. So
when they found out, luckily this child didn't have enough money to pay up and came to them panicking in the middle of the night. But
poor thing.
Horrific for everybody. Just and we'll talk about what you do if you find out your child has been groomed. Online chatting with strangers is another big problem because 40% of children from grades 4 to 8 experienced online chatting with strangers. This is according to the Centre for Cyber Safety and Education. And the NSPCC said 46% of children share personal information online. So these are the key things. Who are they chatting to? Who are they sharing their information with? Do they really understand how critically important it is not to share private information?
Yeah, and I think sometimes, I've experienced with my daughter, like on Snapchat, that they have this thing called they have friends, and they have this. They have loads. They can see they have loads of mutual friends, and there was somebody she was chatting with, and I was like, well, how do you know them? Well, we've got loads of mutual friends. Oh, okay. Well, that sounds really a little bit reassuring.
Yes,
that
of course.
you know each other's friends. That's a good thing, right? Who do they know? Which friends of yours do they know? Oh, I don't know. You can't see. It just says mutual. So there's this kind of fake reassurance that this person is okay because they know lots of people, but you've no idea who, and they could be, very likely be completely random.
Yes.
So it's really dodgy.
Yes.
And she was like, oh, well, it's fine. We have mutuals, but you don't know who they are.
Absolutely. And on that, also with multiplayer games where there are lots of people playing this game, everybody's enjoying themselves because a lot of boys talk and they use this as a means of communicating with their friends. As we know already, that can become, they can get in. They use chat boxes and rooms that are being used by children. Roblox, Minecraft, Clash of the Clans, World of Warcraft. I saw this Roblox story online, which really horrified me. And it was Twitter. And this mother said her little boy, he was nowhere near tween, had decided to go online and have a look on Roblox because
Roblox is for little ones.
Yes, because she wanted to know, she said, okay, I'm going to have a look at it and see what sort of things. And she was horrified by some of the things that he would be able to access. And she went on Twitter and said, this is horrific. Anybody seen this? And they said, I hate to break it to you, but that's nothing compared to what's on there. And she said, well, I know, but I can't share those other things on Twitter. And so, for example, Turfish said there are little porn games on this website that sometimes get advertised to kids.
Oh my God.
Roblox has only recently begun to do stuff about them. This other developer, Dobby, said it's a really complex problem to discuss. But in their opinion, don't uninstall Roblox, but the whole thing is you have to assume that every single new game needs to be investigated. Every single time a child downloads another new game from Roblox, as a parent, you need to be in there looking at what they're looking at. God. And this is why it's so important that we have an open dialogue with our teenagers, because if we start out with the premise that if they do something wrong, we're going to take their stuff away from them, they'll never tell you.
I think that's really key. That's a really good point.
Yes.
It has to be open. Yeah. If like you said in your nugget, if it's a punishment taking away, then that shuts the whole conversation down around it.
And I saw one mother she was amazing. She said, my son was on a game and we have an open conversation all the time about what he's doing. And she said, there's this great guy, made really good friends with him. We've come off the game. He wants to chat to me offline because we're kind of really getting on. Is that okay? And she said, would you mind if I just check some things? Can you give me his phone number? And she said, I won't go into any detail, but we discovered things where he blocked that person.
Wow.
But
imagine
that was
if he'd not said.
Exactly, but that's because they had this really good relationship where she said, I didn't hide it from him. I just said, look, this is why.
Yes.
This is not someone you want to talk to.
Great lesson for him. Yes. Amazing lesson.
And for us.
Yeah, and I think I've often, and I'm just sitting here thinking, crikey, been lulled into a full sense of security that, you know, we've had these conversations before. My kids seem quite aware of you know, things you don't. And to be fair, their school was great when they were at the age where they needed it to be hammered home. They did a talk for them that terrified them. But it needs updating, doesn't it? Like, because things change. And I think I'm thinking I need to go home and re-have this conversation.
I think all of these things, it's the same with every single one of these issues. And it's exhausting. And I totally understand us parents going, really?
Yeah, and it's a balance as well, isn't it? Yes. Because I know my boys, my eldest particularly, I mean, he's 18 now, plays games and they play with other people. They play in teams and it's really fun and you can hear them talking to, and he's half Danish, so he's really enjoyed, you know, talking to other Danes. You know, that's become really fun and interesting as long as it stays online and as long as it's all right. But I guess these predators are stalking these groups, finding the vulnerable ones in those games and, you know, doing this awful thing that they do. And
I think the tip there is that if your kid's playing, you just say, hey, can I just come and listen? Like every now and then, I'm just going to come and join in. Just, you know, how does it work? What are you doing there? That looks so cool. And just be a fly on their shoulder from time to time. And then you'll notice behaviour changing. You'll notice things that aren't quite right. Yeah,
I've asked mine, you know, well, who did you chat to today then? And were the Danes back? Or that kind of thing when that was happening. I don't know what he's doing now because he's not at home anymore. But yeah, no, that's absolutely right.
And just on that Snapchat thing, I saw a recent story in the Times where a police officer groomed more than 200 girls online. It's a police officer repeatedly asked them to take sexual images in their school uniforms. This police officer was 24
in the UK?
And he used fake Snapchat accounts and posed as a young boy to contact girls aged 10 to 16. I mean, come on.
Oh, God.
Right? This is... Anyway, what can we do rather than panic?
Well, actually,
it does make you feel a bit
kind of stories. Yes. I've had conversations with my kids, not over this, but over other issues where their view of the police force is really bad. Because of stories like that, which rightly get put in the media, and that's awful. I mean, that's dreadful, and other things. And they kind of like, well, there's no point going to the police because they're all blah, 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 blah. And the films they watch about the police, that's a whole other story, but worth mentioning maybe.
And on that note, the people I've spoken to who have gone to the police have had support.
Yeah.
But, for example, one of them where this child, the police were brought in by the school, all phones that had any images on or had potentially had images on were confiscated. So, you know, the one of the children who had not instantly deleted the photo, because these photos were disseminated around the entire school, lost their iPhone for 8 months.
Gosh,
because the police, it was evidence.
Yeah. Oh, I think the police are. I think the police are amazing, but some of the teens have got a funny view of them. Sometimes.
Of course. Yeah. So what can we do? Okay, so we need to teach our kids social media responsibility and internet safety. It's not a one and done conversation. No. It's a regular checking in with them. Teach your kids not to share information. Just don't. No phone numbers, no addresses. Don't talk to people you haven't met in real life, and no sexual photos, because that's the big one. Yeah. Once you've sent one, that's gone, and now you don't have control. Right? Check all new games and apps regularly. It's just about keeping them safe. So you don't have to be, over their shoulder. Just say, can we check what games you're on? Do you mind if I have a quick look? And if they know that you're only there to support them and that you're not going to punish them or make them feel terrible for making a mistake, they're much more likely to have conversations with you about it.
Yeah, because it freaks them out too. They want us to be safe.
Yes, and don't tell them they're stupid. I mean, like I said, these people are so sophisticated.
Yes, no, that's really valid. Yes. Because they will feel silly for it, but they're not. It's not their fault.
Yes, and if they do decide they want to talk to somebody offline or meet somebody offline, you need phone numbers. You need to talk to them. You need to talk to their parents. This is a matter of keeping your child safe. If they're defensive about it, you just say, well, why? We need to be open and careful about this, and you need to understand why this is an issue.
And it's a funny balance, isn't it? Because that's really valid and really, really important. And we also don't want to terrify our teenagers in the world. We want them to be cautious. We want them to take really good precaution, but we don't want them to be frightened of doing anything and think that everybody is a big bad groomer. Yeah. That's a terrible message to give them as well. So it does have to be done with balance and with, with that in mind.
Because a lot of our teens are not meeting people face to face. That's one of the biggest problems we've got now that's happened with COVID and the lack of skill in meeting up with people. And a lot of it's gone online, and they meet wonderful people online. And actually you can reach people who share your interests in a way you can't in your own community. So there are some amazing benefits, but you need to be sitting next to them and saying, so how's this, who is this person? Okay, I'm fine with that. Good.
Yeah, because we want them to be in the world open and trusting and loving, rather than terrified and wondering if everyone's going to do something horrible to them. We don't want that.
Signs of grooming. It can be difficult to tell, but some of the signs you might see, they're being very secretive about how they're spending their time. They haven't new money, or they have phones, they have things that you haven't bought for them. They're spending less time with other people. They become a lot more withdrawn. Sexualized behavior or language and an understanding of sex that's inappropriate for their age, because that would always be a flag for me. And spending more time away from home, going missing, things like that are really big flags.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're very often unlikely to know they've been groomed.
Yeah.
If a child reveals abuse of any type, what do we do? So listen carefully to what they're saying. Pause. We need to calm ourselves inside, because they may come to us in a panic and say, this has just happened, and we're going to feel very upset. Yes. So once again, listen to our How Not to Overreact episode. Let them know immediately that they've done the right thing by telling you. Yeah. So thank them. And tell them it's not their fault.
Yes.
Because as soon as we say, you're stupid, why did you do that? It's ridiculous, which is what we will be thinking. Because we will also be thinking, oh my goodness, I've told you. Did I tell you this? I've told you, right? Say you're going to take them seriously and explain what you'll do next. Report what the child has told you as soon as possible. I will put in the podcast links, the episode links, lots of means of reporting things, getting pictures taken down. So don't panic. Have a look at the website links, the episode links, and see if there's something where just reach out for some support.
And like you said, it's not their fault. It's so not their fault. They're so vulnerable. And what teenager doesn't like a bit of attention? What adult doesn't like a bit of attention?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just a minefield.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. So understanding why this has happened, what internal drivers there are for wanting that kind of attention, and then giving them a chance to just heal from it, because they may need counselling. That's the other thing, because some of this can be so traumatizing that you may need to follow it up with some unpacking of it.
And they may really question their own ability to judge anything.
Yes. And the fear, one of the big fears is it getting out.
Yes.
One of the situations, it did get out. Everyone in the school knew, and that was very, very hard. Very hard.
And learning how to trust people again.
Yes, absolutely. So obviously it's a very troubling area of parenting. It's super important. I hope this has helped give you an opportunity to think about this topic and how you might approach it at home and ways to protect your kids. It's constantly reminding ourselves that we are the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
There is nothing else, unfortunately, and we need to be on it.
Yeah, we do. It's a good reminder. Thank you for the reminder, Rachel. I'm going to have another conversation with my kids. We've had a few, but let's have another one.
I stopped one of my daughters and said, can I just ask you, do you know how to spot a groomer? And she gave me verbatim. Okay. And I thought, okay, we have had those conversations.
Yeah.
But I keep going back to them and saying, do you know what behaviour to look out for?
Yes.
Do you know, what have you shared online? And I have had kids, one of my kids share my phone number, because she can never remember her phone number, for some competition. And I pulled her to one side and said, okay, I'm going to explain to you why this is such a massive problem.
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't share your phone number, but no.
Yeah. And did I win?
Clearly I wasn't going to win, because it was clearly a way of getting my phone number. Anyway.
Oh, that's so dodgy.
Yes. I put some links to those helplines in the podcast notes.
That's brilliant for that.
Yes. And it's not something we like talking about, but let's do this.
But it's brilliant to have those links. So thank you for doing that, because I think in the situation, we would all be panicking, wouldn't we? What do we do? Where do we go? So to know where to go to find those things is really helpful.
Nightmare. And just being able to talk to someone who'll say, calm down. It's okay. It's okay. Here's how we're going to do this. Yeah. Exactly. Let's do something lighter in our next episode.
Yeah, can we? Tell some jokes. I've got some great ones.
One I heard today, floordrobe. Floordrobe. It's basically a wardrobe on the floor, which is what most teenagers like it to be. Not all, but
yeah. I have one of those.
Yeah. And the other one, this all came from my yoga class, JOMO.
Oh, the joy of missing out.
Yeah. So with Christmas, all these, she was saying how nature is trying to tell us to slow down, hibernate, calm, winter, and our society is telling us to ramp things up and go out and have parties and go and see people, and that disconnect is hard. So
that's the new trendy thing in the world of well-being, I think, wintering, and we can have a balance in it as well. It's also fun to go out, but it's tuning in, isn't it? What do I need today?
Yeah.
That was good. Well done. We ended in a different vein. Well done, Rachel.
Well, if you have any questions, teenagersuntangled@gmail.com. Keep the questions coming. Keep the ideas coming. We love hearing from you. The website is www.teenagersuntangled.com. You can leave a nugget on there. Ooh. If you just, the recording thing, just leave a nugget and we'll put it on. You can be on our show.
Oh,
we would love
more
that.
nuggets. Yeah, that'd be great.
Susie, you can be reached on
www.amindful-life.co.uk. I had to think about that. And you can book a free chat on there if you fancy that.
Free chats. You don't have to go to parties. You can just sit at home and chat to Susie.
Yeah, and you don't have to, I'm not being weird on it.
No, she's not. She just keeps all her weirdness for this particular podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, no, there's more of it.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to spend more time with you. Right. Well, that's it for now. Until next time.
Bye-bye for now.